It's Lisa and I'm the newbie with the 5 waiting wombs, and this is my 2nd week. And today I have Valerie with me, and her channel name is Mrs. VSNC09. Hi, Valerie. And our topic this week is the personhood legislation. So I thought it'd be kind of cool because this was Valerie's idea for our group to talk about. So I have her with me here today, and she's going to start off our conversation. So Valerie, what do you think about this?
For those that aren't familiar with personhood legislation, it will give rights to your egg and or embryos that are created, the same as what you have as a living, breathing human being. So it is a serious and very important legislation that anyone that is struggling with infertility and looking at assisted reproductive techniques really needs to pay attention. And even if you're not, there's situations where you really need to be mindful and aware of the legislation that may be introduced, and it has been in several states.
Yeah, this is actually kind of scary. Once I started reading about it, I'm not going to lie, I really didn't know too much about this until I started looking up topics online. So this is actually pretty scary for a lot of us that are trying to conceive and having to do IUIs and in vitro.
It really is. I even looked, Resolve is a large organization. They have a large national voice. And on their Facebook page, I usually keep up with what's happening across the nation and to know about the personhood legislation. And it was just like, let me see what they're talking about. And it could involve, even if I, who had fibroids, if fibroid doesn't allow that embryo to implant, would that mean criminal charges are brought up against me?
That's ridiculous.
If you have endo and it doesn't allow the embryo to attach, it's really serious legislation that everybody should be made aware of.
Wow.
Scary.
So how would this affect as far as like people going through in vitro? Because say, what do they consider that then if the in vitro doesn't work,
For those going through in vitro, it could potentially have, depending on the state and how the law is written, it could have criminal charges brought against the couple and or the doctor.
Wow.
So, yeah, you have to look at so many aspects of the in vitro process. So, a woman will go through the process of having her ovaries stimulated to produce eggs. Now, if these eggs are considered people, and now you've taken these people from her body and fertilized them,
mm-hmm.
What happens to those people, to this legislation, when it's time to do cryopreservation and or to do a transfer? And you could have a major impact on that.
Yeah, how does it go as far as the freezing? They probably would not allow...
Some states, how it was written, would not allow cryopreservation.
Wow.
And that's really serious because, if a woman hyperstimulates or something else happens in the cycle, and it could be that your intention is to do a frozen embryo transfer,
mm-hmm.
that is now impacted. Not all embryos are successfully thaw. So, or criminal charges brought because those embryos didn't survive the thaw. So it has major impacts.
I saw something online here, and this is somebody that is saying that personhood legislation does not criminalize in vitro procedures, but it says IVF procedures, the intent is to bring human life into existence, not to destroy human life.
Right.
So it's kind of a crapshoot because you don't know what's going to happen.
Right. You don't know what's going to happen. You would have to take a look at the law as it's written in that particular state, whatever state you may be in.
Right.
The impact could be great. Now, you could be in a state that says you have mandatory insurance coverage. But what if a new bill is introduced that now impacts that in vitro fertilization?
Right.
So it has major impacts.
Now, are there any states that are actually looking at this, like, seriously right now?
Just last year, I think it was, or the year before, Mississippi, it was brought to a vote to the public. Thankfully, they voted it down. So, in knowing how conservative the state of Mississippi is, even this was too far for them. So, you know, to give a cell the same rights as a living, breathing human, somewhere in there is a disconnect.
Right.
I look at it as it could affect what would stop someone from amending that law now to include organ donations or blood transfusions.
Exactly.
You know, so somewhere it's got to end.
Well, this is definitely scary for us, because if they take away those things from us, then we pretty much, you know, what do you do then? You have adoption, and you have, well, I don't even know, what surrogacy?
That's really where it would probably be, would be adoption. Mm-hmm. And even that's not an option for everybody.
Right.
You know, it costs so much money. So, and many couples just choose not to adopt.
Right.
It's really a personal decision how either an individual or a couple decides to build their family.
Right.
It's a very personal decision.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I really don't think the government needs to be involved in how that happens.
No. Another question I would have is, how about, like, when people would miscarry? I was reading how miscarriages, like, that's something that your body has almost no control over, and they're going to consider that a criminal act.
It's very possible that that could be considered a criminal act, because that embryo, if it's considered a person, that may be considered murder.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. It's really something that, you know, you really have to look at and be aware of. Hopefully now that we're discussing it and it's going to be in a larger forum, more people will become more aware and really keep their eyes and ears open to this.
I read this article, and mine was on rightremedy.org. Mm-hmm. And I saw the one on Resolve too. I've read a few of them that you posted on Facebook that I saw. But this one said, couples trying to get pregnant through IVF would have nothing to fear from the legislation unless they consented to the intentional destruction of their embryonic children. Like,
yeah, it's just so over the top.
It says, even if their IVF failed, their intent to save and nurture human life, not destroy it. What, like, of course you don't want to destroy it. Like, that's not the intent at all.
Exactly, but that's still a couple or an individual's choice what happens to those embryos when they're created. And I know there's a lot of, you know, religious backlash that many religious institutions don't believe that they should be destroyed. But again, it's a personal decision.
Exactly.
Those embryos without a uterus, and if they're healthy, there's no guarantee that they would grow anyway. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's really, really scary to think, because it's interpretation.
Yep. So what's some stuff that we could possibly do to, like, just bring awareness for this, I guess? I mean, you are doing the perfect thing, because I didn't know anything about it until you posted it on Facebook. So you're spreading the word that way, which I think is awesome.
I think the main thing is, if it is through Facebook or it's through Twitter, and you see interesting posts like that, of course, a lot of people aren't discussing their own personal infertility struggles, but it's something that you can just put out there for everyone to know. So you can do a post and keep it very generic. Also, really start following legislation introduced in your states. So, you know, that you're aware if a personhood bill is brought forth, that you can take a little action, get involved with Resolve or any other advocacy group that would fight these.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, it helps if you have like me.
I just can't believe, like, we're supposed to be living here in America. It's supposed to be like a free country, and they just keep locking down more and more things. Now they're going to lock down our eggs.
Yeah, it's just bizarre, and I know that the assisted reproductive techniques, many people see them as you're tinkering with something that God has intended to happen, but for many of us, we have to rely on that for whatever the reasons that we have going on with our bodies. Without those techniques, that would take away our family building. I just don't understand how a cell that you don't see unless you're looking under a microscope is going to have so many constitutional rights. Because that's really what it comes down to, is that cell will have constitutional personhood rights.
Right. Yeah, that's craziness. What do you guys think? We'd love to hear your comments down below. If you have any interesting articles or places for us to read more about this, please leave the links below. And for now, I'm going to actually leave Valerie's link down below. If you don't follow her already on YouTube, I will link her channel below so you could follow her journey. And I think that's it for this week. I mean, all of us from the 5 Waiting Wombs are going to be speaking about this, so people look out for that. If you're not subscribed to the 5 Waiting Wombs, please do that. It's an awesome channel. You get a lot of great information, and you get to meet a lot of cool people like Valerie. So there we go. All right, well, thanks a lot, Valerie, for being with us today.
Thanks, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this great topic.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Bye.